yesterday morning. He was, so he's unable to join, and I don't think he got a chance to send out the agenda to the commissioners. So, and I also just heard from Charles Chavez that he is unavailable to join this morning. So is there another commissioner who can lead the meeting this morning and make sure that there's a quorum? If there is not a quorum, then the meeting may need to be adjourned.
Kristen, there was an agenda that was sent over to the commissioner.
I can put a copy in the chat. It is on the commission's website. I'll put that in right now.
Okay, thank you, Trish. I wasn't, and Emily, I wasn't sure if the agenda went to all of the commissioners.
No problem.
A link to the agenda is now in the chat.
All right, I guess I can start.
I knew that would happen.
Get the conversation going. I'm David Armenti, Research Committee Chair of the Commission. So as indicated by our OAG representative, we need to have a quorum in order to move forward with the meeting. So if somebody can remind me, are we looking, is that going to be, I believe, 8 or 9 present commissioners?
I think we have to have eight plus 1, right? Isn't it? Don't we have 18?
Yes, I believe it's 18.
Yeah, so we have to have.
Have we gotten a representative from the Reginald F. Lewis Museum yet? Because if then, we're still one short.
Okay. I don't recall seeing a notice to that effect.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So then we're still at 17, which means if we have 9, we're okay, I think.
All right, so shall we take attendance then?
We have a
or
quorum,
can you just see you in the chat?
Yeah.
Sorry, the participant list.
Yeah, I was going to say, just from looking at the list, it looks like we do have a quorum, but let's do an official attendance just to be on the safe side.
All right, David Armenti, that's me. I am here. We already indicated that the chair, Dr. Falconley, and vice chair, Dr. Chavis, not available for the meeting today. So that's 1 with me. Lindsay Baker.
Here.
Thank you, Lindsay. Iris Barnes. Simone Barrett Williams. Michelle Coles.
Present.
Hello. Nicholas Creary.
Present.
Roger Davidson. Maya Davis.
Present.
Tisha Dupree Wilson. Christopher Haley.
Here.
Elizabeth Hughes.
Here.
Hello, hello. Amy Millen.
Here.
We still have the former representative of the Lewis Museum listed, so I'll scratch that from the record. Carl Snowden. Marshall Stevenson.
Present.
Stephanie Sweareth. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 commissioners present. So by my understanding there, are we able to move forward with an official meeting? And
Yeah,
I see-
David, Dr. Dupuy Wilson just entered as well.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's gotten us through the first 2 agenda items. I believe agenda item 3 is the approval of January's meeting minutes, though I believe we did not have those prepared and distributed ahead of time, if I'm remembering correctly. So we will move on from that. Chris, would you mind introducing the soul check?
Not at all. So what we do, what we've started doing for several months now, is just check base with each other who are our commissioners because of the work we do, the work we're trying to do, and just to assess ourselves as to how we feel about the state of affairs today, which is to say, with the work, with our mission, are there things that are going on right now in the public sphere which we feel are directly or even indirectly affecting our work and affecting how we view what we talk about today? So with that, I'd say we call it a soul check. I would think that I think if there's something that I would start with myself, and I'm thinking of something that's really not specific to our mission, to our lynching commission. So I will allow someone else to start off and see if they want to bring things up, and then maybe I'll remember something that is really probably. It's Black History Month, so quite frankly, in and of itself, Black History Month, while I feel is universally and nationally accepted as being a just and valid and appropriate occasion to recognize the contributions of people of African descent, we also must acknowledge that there's a very active effort and certainly in many states, to put in place legislation that restricts that restricts Black History Month, not just for the month, but for the entire year. And that is ongoing. And in many ways, anytime someone talks against being woke, that is inclusive of African American history. Certainly in my view, it is. So that's something that, if nothing else, in February, I think is even more telling and pointed that we have this anti-discussion going on. And as I just saw something flash on my screen, there's still friction and tension and a difference of opinion that the national anthem is now sung at the Super Bowl. The Negro national anthem is now sung at the Super Bowl. There's still many who don't feel like that's appropriate and regardless of who sings it. If Whitney Houston came back from the dead, I think there would still be people who would not like the fact that the Negro national anthem is sung at the Super Bowl. So that's along the lines of what I think is being discussed, but maybe not overtly used right now during Black History Month. Anyone else?
Yeah, on that, and I will say I wasn't necessarily rooting for Kansas City Chiefs as much as, hey, Patrick Mahomes, and let's celebrate another Black quarterback, especially against the team that I will never forgive for what they did to Colin Kaepernick. And so I thought that was fitting. But then also, and I know since Dr. Fakunle is not here, I will say congratulations to the Elephants of Ivory Coast for their win in the African Cup of Nations, which, again, if we want to celebrate another moment of excellence in Black sport, that was a fantastic tournament. I don't know if anybody had the opportunity to see more than just the championship, but it was just a thrilling, fantastic, display of sporting. And as I said, of Black excellence in it. And so hopefully, next year's folks will be going to the World Cup, which is going to be held, in US, Canada, and Mexico. So yes, I will celebrate the Elephants and the Super Eagles for their phenomenal play yesterday.
Hi, everyone. This is Michelle Coles. I just wanted to say I had the great pleasure of visiting the National Great Blacks in Wax Museum yesterday for a Black History Month program that I helped plan for young African American youth. And their reaction to the museum was so inspiring, being able to see heroes and legends, not quite in the flesh, but in the wax, was so exciting for them, as well as very emotional. Some of our older kids went to visit the the more sensitive and emotional part of the museum in the basement that focuses on slavery, lynching, racial violence. And I saw their eyes, coming up from that basement area, wet with tears, and the emotional impact. And I think it's just so important to keep all of the stories, the trauma, the surviving, the stories of survival, the stories of resistance to oppression, alive with our youth, so that they can continue to keep those memories alive and not allow the past to repeat itself. And so I hope more people and children are able to experience that museum.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. This is Taisha Dupree Wilson. Just wanted to chime in. I had the experience of being confused when I had a conversation with some young people who were high schoolers regarding African American history. I did a talk up at Drexel University in Philadelphia, and they brought in, some kids to hear the talk. And, I always do my little trivia thing just to warm them up and get them talking. And one of the students said, oh, well, the day that we did Black history, I had something to do or whatever. I'm thinking to myself, the day that you did African American history. And I say all that to say that it just goes to show you that we need to continue to push even harder to allow our children to see African American history as a requirement and not an elective. Because a lot of them view it as like gravy on top, when in reality, African American history is American history. And you cannot tell the American story without telling the African American story. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it kind of confused me that the kids said, oh, I wasn't there. So I guess that one day they learned about the usual suspects, Dr. King, Rosa Parks, and if you're lucky, Frederick Douglass. And I'm not belittling those folks, but what I'm saying is there's so many hidden gems that we never, ever illuminate, and we need to start to do that.
Well, I'll just chime in and I'll share just in terms of like a soul check, if I could be honest. In the last week, I lost two people, one close to me at 39 years old, my brother's partner, and I've been spending the last week planning a funeral, and another 29-year-old who had a heart attack. And so as we come here, like sometimes I've gotten to the place where I'm frustrated by coming to these meetings. I feel like we come here and we're judged with a critical eye, and there's no grace for what people actually have going on in their real lives, not just their personal lives and this hobby. Because right now, for me, this is not work. It was work when I was working at the Maryland State Archives, but I'm doing this by my volunteer time. through the African American Commission. And it's very frustrating coming here and have people look at you like you're not doing enough. And I'm showing up and I'm trying to be my best self. But if I'm going to be honest, like I need to come here and feel good about this work because this is heavy work. And I don't know that I've ever shared publicly why this has been like such a passion of mine. My great grandparents left Montgomery, Alabama in 1921 following a lynching. Having lived in a community that was directly impacted by lynching. And it is just so heavy for me to carry that and know that. And I know that I've said in some of our closed sessions that I would never go to another group, whether that be race, ethnicity, gender, and tell them they're not doing enough. So when I come here every month on the second Monday of the month, I'm looking to have people who are here that want to see this work being done, but are excited about the work and not putting a guilt trip on our commission about what we do or what we're not doing well enough. And I just had to say that because I'm dealing with a really heavy time right now and the loss that's impacted my family over the last week. But I'm here and I'm dedicated to doing this work and I'm showing up. And, you know, David, I'm sorry, I know you've had to raise your hand so many times in the last couple months to weigh in and be the person that leads our meetings. And I just want to let you know that I'm like so appreciative of you raising your hand today, just because I could not. And that's, I'll just end right there. And thanks to all of our commissioners who are here and doing the work, working hard and dealing with the same things I'm dealing with. I'm not any different. I think that we all have things on our plate, but I just wanted to share it and like just bring us back to the center of why we're doing this work and getting like focused on what we're doing. And just thank you to everyone. But I need to kind of just soul check myself and realize that I can't like show up 100% all the time, and especially not today. But I just wanted to share that with everyone. Thank you.
Well, Maya, we truly appreciate that transparent moment and our sincere condolences for your loss. Do let us know if you need anything. A soul check from me, Trish Boyle with OAG, project manager. I've had the pleasure of joining the Emmett Till investigation trials with a lot of you all here on the commission. And it has been really impactful to learn the illustration of the hearing process on the opposite side of being able to be a trainer, being able to open up spaces to allow communities at large to feel comfortable with sharing their stories, whether they're on the side of someone who committed a crime against their ancestors, or vice versa, being a person who was a part of a family that committed a crime against African Americans and their ancestors. There is another training that will be coming up on the 21st. I'm sure that Sophie will get that sent over to folks if anyone wants to join. So my soul check there is just feeling a lot of compassion from the stories that were shared, the group closeness and togetherness of what people are able to give out. And even now I'm doing a very present soul check. I am feeling that energy from Maya and everybody else on the team. And I want to express gratitude to you all in this moment. And I can pass it to whoever would like to go next.
I'll go next. I'll piggyback on what Trish just alluded to, the trainings that we've been able to attend through the National Criminal Justice Training Center and the Emmett Till Fund. They've been excellent, and 2 out of the 3 of the series have occurred so far, with another one next week. They are both going to inform some of, I think they're informing some of the process, as well as providing a real foundation on which we can continue to do this work. So if you're available, I really encourage the commissioners to attend.
I just want to say that this is, I brought this up because I'm a part of an Annapolis Pride board, and they have soul checks, and it's especially vital, and I think even appropriate to, even as Maya was saying, to approach these meetings with the realness of whatever you're going through, because sometimes, I mean, the fact that we're doing this type commission, the fact that I'm on Annapolis Pride, is that these are two commissions, two boards, which are about people who are marginalized, which means that you're going into a space where you're trying to seek representation, appreciation, recognition for a community that doesn't necessarily receive it per norm. I mean, why is there still a Voting Rights Act? I mean, in and of itself, that is something that always gives me pause to think that that is still in any way necessary. Why can't it just be all the time? But we know that it is necessary. So quite frankly, that is why it's so important to have these, to just remind people that we cannot and should not come into these meetings as if it's just 1 + 1 = 2 or 2 + 2 = 4. It's so much more broad and important to do this. And when you leave from this and go to do presentations or go to attend functions, even then, it's very challenging when you have to do research and you are happy when you find something about someone being lynched. I mean, just think about the reality of that. We are happy when we find something about someone who ran away from slavery, because we're happy to at least acknowledge that person's existence of a horrible experience. And that, when you allow yourself to, quite frankly, be real about it, does require a soul check. So thanks, David, for letting us go there.
Absolutely. And, you know, I appreciate everybody's candor and willingness to share within this forum. Again, I think that's valuable, that we all kind of recognize what we're bringing to it, and the emotional toll in combination with other things. So appreciate that. We are at the point in the agenda for public comment, which I believe we've traditionally offered primarily through the chat. But if there are members of the public, either with new information to share or perhaps to tack on to the soul check themselves, I think we can give space for that here. All right. So moving along to committee reports, since I am already talking, I will go ahead with the research committee report. We did hold the monthly meeting last Monday at 3 p.m. and had several individuals and members of the public present for that meeting. We got updates regarding the workflow and research on the Maryland State Archives side of things, as well as some suggested steps as far as coordination with the Heritage Associates firm that is a contract collaborator of the commission. So I would kind of rather briefly say that one thing that we are looking to kind of re-engage or update would be the what were termed the case study profile documents for each individual case, which is something that Heritage Associates prepared in collaboration with the committee, which is basically a document that gives an overview of the various components of each case, individuals involved, kind of a baseline level of information. So I think that as a committee, we want to revisit that structure and use that as a tool to continue to inform the full commission about especially cases that are in an upcoming hearing, so that they can come prepared with a package of where research stands, and also, you know, opportunity for prompting questions for further research. So be on the lookout for further updates regarding that sort of documentation, because we know that information is in a bunch, and research are in a bunch of different places between different organizations' websites and internal storage. So in an effort to kind of consolidate that and have everybody of the same mind on certain cases, we'll be circulating those again. Also, as related to Frederick County, I think we've mentioned in the past meeting that there is a tentative date of Saturday, April 13th for a hearing in Frederick County. Anybody else involved with that, feel free to jump in, but I think at least as far as awareness amongst commissioners is step one. So working with the project manager, we can make sure to, for example, once things are more set, get calendar holds on people's schedules, and certainly once we have an actual location confirmed, get that information out as soon as possible. But I would urge folks to at least flag that Saturday, April 13th for participation. We are at pretty much exactly 2 months out now, so we need to really turn our focus there in order to make that happen. And all credit to, or much of the credit due to Dr. Creary in terms of pulling together various collaborators and entities at the local level who should be working with us to actually make that event happen. So more information to come. And another thing that I'll distribute by email related to Frederick County is a really wonderful research report that Dean Herron, former National Park Service historian, provided. So in some of these cases, we get lucky where other scholars have preceded us and really done a lot of the legwork. So I think this is a great example of, certainly we don't want to recreate the wheel on research, but also things that we can cross-reference and as a commission, you know, make sure that we are getting the most robust version of these stories and people's lives that we can provide at the hearings. So more to come regarding that county in particular, and certainly the overall structure of how research is distributed amongst commissioners. We'll be providing more information about that soon. So that is the research committee report. Do we have reconciliation report?
Yes, we do. And funny that you are talking about cross-referencing. We did meet on Friday, February 5th. Excuse me. And had a good conversation about the hearing transcripts that were done for the 5 that we've already had. Dr. Michelle Gowerk and a couple of her students at Loyola University have been going through them to check the accuracy and the consistency of them. But they've also developed a code key for, as we start looking at the hearings and collecting data from them, so that we can start looking at themes that emerge from the hearings and look at them across the hearings, so that when we start importing this data into, you know, the beginnings of the report and the recommendations that we'll be hopefully making, we can use, you know, some of those, that code key and we have a little space there for Dr. Gowerk to talk about that a little bit later. But we've had a limited number of students apply for the internships that we are hoping to establish. So Commissioner Coles has put that announcement or call for applications out on LinkedIn. And we had some discussion of possible things we want to see in terms of education that I think will be appropriate recommendations to make when we get to that point.
Thank you so much. And unless somebody else would like to step in, I'm happy to defer the logistics committee report. Unless Commissioner Davis would like to interject either in the chat or verbally, but
Hey, David, for this meeting, I'm going to go through. I was asked to kind of go over the hearing template, and so I just want to do that in place of a logistics committee report. The logistics committee, we have met in the last month, and we do have a couple of new commissioners. Commissioner Amy Millen and Commissioner Lindsay Baker have joined our committee and have been really great as resources to support the logistics committee. And Chris Haley continues to serve, as well as Taisha Dupree-Wilson and Elizabeth Hughes. So our group, we have started to reconvene and think about the public hearings and reestablishing relationships with our liaison groups and getting that off the ground for the liaison groups that we need to meet with for the hearings coming up, as Commissioner Curry just kind of talked about briefly. If it's possible, Emily, I'm not sure. I'll see if I can share my screen. I know sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge.
You should be able to, Maya. Unlike Zoom, this doesn't require permission, okay. I don't think.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, let me just start my slideshow.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you so much, Emily. And this is just for everybody from our commissioners as a reminder for some of the new commissioners who had never seen this before, as well as members of the county coalitions or other county groups that we may be working with in the future. This is just something that kind of help people understand the process for the public hearings and the template that was established by the logistics committee. So just to give everyone a little bit of background, the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission was established by House Bill 307, which was sponsored by Delegate Joseline Pena-Milnick. And just to kind of read that off, it says the commission shall hold regional hearings open to the public in each county area in which a lynching of an African-American by a white mob has been documented, receive from the public, including those from the families and communities affected by racially motivated lynchings, recommendations for addressing, engaging, and reconciling communities affected by racially motivated lynchings, including the erection of memorial plaques or signage at or near the sites of racially motivated lynchings, and making recommendations for addressing the legacy of lynching that are rooted in the spirit of restorative justice. In the hearings conducted under the subject of this section, the commission may research cases of racially motivated lynchings for which there is no documentation, should those cases be brought to the commission's attention, and the involvement of the state, county, and local government entities and relevant news media in cases of racially motivated lynchings on or before September 1st, 2020. But of course, our commission deadline has been extended, so that has changed drastically. And we will then also be responsible for issuing out a report. We did an interim report, which went before the General Assembly, but then we also have to do a final report of our findings. And this is where the hearings, the public hearings, are really important and essential to this work as we get feedback from the community about what we're going to actually be submitting as a commission to the General Assembly for recommendations. So just as I kind of mentioned earlier, the Logistics Committee currently is myself. I'm the chair of the Logistics Committee, Lindsay Baker, Taisha Dupree Wilson, Chris Haley, Elizabeth Hughes, and Amy Millen. And I believe we're all here today. I'm so excited to say that so that you guys can put a face to the names in case you have any questions. And so I will begin by looking at like the public hearing process. One of the first steps for the public hearing process is collaboration. This commission is very appreciative of the county coalitions and the citizens in this state who worked with us to plan the public hearings that we've already had to date, which we're going to actually continue. And so one of the steps that we're going to be asking commissioners who still have a county assignment to fulfill is getting those relationships reestablished, and knowing that we have some new commissioners, they haven't had the opportunity necessarily to establish a relationship in the first place. So we're looking at the list of counties, and we'll be reaching out to kind of say, well, these are the county contacts, just so people know who they're going to be working with for those specific hearings. And then we're going to be, once we do that relationship building with our county groups, we're going to look at pre-program planning, which is something that has to take place ahead of the hearing so that every entity, whether that's the members of the commission or members of a coalition or someone from the public, for those counties who don't necessarily have a coalition but have a group that are willing to help support the actual hearing, we can all be on the same page and have clarity on what the specific roles are for the commission versus the members of the public. Another part of that process is selecting the hearing venue, working on outreach to get the right people at the hearing, and then setting the program agenda. So I'm going to walk through each one. In terms of the hearing venue, yes.
I apologize. Your slides are not advancing for us. We are only seeing the very front page of what, and I know, having seen your presentation before, I know you've gone farther than that.
Yes. Oh, wow.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
Oh, no. It's okay. I don't know if can you guys see, like, I hit escape just now?
Now you're on the slide that says hearing venue.
Yeah, so maybe what I'll do is instead of having it in share mode and present mode, I'll leave it like this and just go to each slide.
Okay, yeah, we can see hearing venue now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. A big component of the hearing venue is where. Of course, when we have specific counties, we need to determine where this will be located, but there have been a select group of hearings where there's more than one county at the same hearing. One of the ones that we have planned coming up is Howard and Montgomery. We'll need to determine what's going to be the middle ground, because, you know, both counties will feel like, oh, we should have it in my county, but we can only have it at one location. So, you know, that'll be a part of the discussion as we kind of come together with those incidents where we have like two county groups that are going to be working on the hearing with us. And then thinking about the significance and the symbolism. As you see here, we were at the Baltimore County courthouse and for the Baltimore County hearing. And as we go from county to county, we try to think of places that are not just historical, but then also how does that significance and symbolism match up with people that are hearing, coming to the hearings and giving testimony? Is this a place that evokes a safe space for people to come and share their testimony? And one of the things that I have to give credit to our Commissioner, Amy Millen, is thinking about accessibility and parking. Accessibility is huge. We want to make sure that no one person feels like they can't participate in this day because there's any accessibility issues at the site of a hearing. And so we do want to take into consideration things that are wheelchair accessible and places where they may actually have like multi-sensory options, whether that's through a slideshow, things to be heard, microphones and things like that. So just taking all of those things into consideration. Parking is also a huge consideration for planning of the hearing venue. We don't want to have anyone incur any costs with coming to the hearings for parking. And also, you know, like if there's like a town where there may be like street parking, if we can find a place that has like a parking lot associated with that hearing venue, that would actually be preferred. I know that sometimes things are a little bit out of our control based on the location, but if we can actually find parking at the facility where we hold the hearing, that would be preferred. safety. We do actually have local law enforcement typically at these hearings just to ensure safety. And every now and then when we work with a county coalition, they may inform us that there is like a little bit of aggression from a local group or something like that. And then the commission actually does our due diligence to work with the OAG to kind of get that information to local law enforcement so that we can ramp up more support for that particular hearing. And the last thing is we want to make sure that the hearings have technological capabilities because we do present the slides for the public to be able to read off, but then we also work to live stream these hearings. And I know that that was something that we had worked with in our most recent hearings, and it was live streamed through YouTube, and people were able to see it whether they were in person or at home. So that's one of the things that's usually up for discussion. Next is the outreach. We do have a PR firm on board who can actually help us with marketing. So that's not anything that any of the county coalitions or a commissioner per se has to be responsible for creating. We have that, but it will be helpful for both entities to spread this out to their networks. Any marketing materials like the PR firm will probably put out to a select group of places, but you know, there's always someone out there who may not get the word, and we all have very different networks, and so it'll be really helpful to kind of have a targeted send out when we actually do post the next dates and have the marketing materials given to us. In terms of collaboration, as we talk about collaboration with the county coalitions, I just wanted to run down the different list of collaborators. The number one priority, of course, for our commission is the descendant collaborators, whether they're lineal and or community descendants. And these are descendants of victims of racially motivated lynchings, and then also descendants of people who would have been involved in it, some of the perpetrators, because we do want to hear from both communities so that we can make sound recommendations and, you know, like give that information to the General Assembly. I think it's very important to have both at the table. And then also the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project County Coalitions, they have been a long-standing partner, and we have worked with those coalitions, but we need to firm up some of those relationships as we move forward and reach back out to those county coalition groups. Some of our commissioners have changed, some of the leadership and some of the county coalitions have changed, and so it's just a due diligence that we need to do in terms of collaboration to get back into a discussion and planning with the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project County Coalitions. We also have independent county coalitions because some groups have kind of formed their own coalition within their county, or are trying to form a group that will handle a lynching hearing. So it just behooves us to kind of work with as many people as possible to help pull these off. And then also government agencies who many government agencies have a direct correlation and relationship with the lynchings that have occurred and have been invited at various times. Some have accepted our offer to participate in the hearing, some have not. And so that will kind of vary over time, but as we all have different relationships, this is where we kind of work with our independent county coalitions or the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project coalitions to kind of have those discussions with their local, you know, politicians, law enforcement, government agencies that may be in their county. You know, maybe some of that can be of assistance in terms of like getting the right people to the hearings. And then the institutional entities such as like newspapers. And I know often we use the Baltimore Sun, where we're going to actually be doing the institutional hearings to address what the impact of media and things like that has been on lynchings in the past. And so the next slide is the program agenda. The program agenda does have like the opening, a history overview, the testimony, next step recommendations, and the conclusion. And I point these out because these are like the 5 pieces that are what the commission and the logistics committee have deemed as the mandatory part of the agenda. We have kind of in the past like worked and been more flexible with our county coalitions to kind of add elements there. But moving forward, we are going to be a little more tight just to make sure that we are able to, in the time that we have left as a commission, recognize that our time is going to come to an end, getting to the point of what it is that we need. And so we will try to lead with these 5 things. And I should say that the living and growing grief counselors are on hand at each hearing. And so that's a very integral part of the work that we're going to be doing. And making sure that the commission hearings are running smoothly. We generally try to plan for like 3 hours max, but it doesn't mean that, you know, if you have like your county has like maybe 1 or 2 people, maybe that's a 1 or 2 hour hearing. It doesn't mean that you have to fill up 3 hours. It's just what we have allotted in case there is a county, for example, like Anne Arundel that had a couple of different cases of racially motivated hearings, and we have to hear back from a variety of different community members and descendants who have to give feedback. But if, you know, I don't want any county coalition to feel like, oh, we don't have enough, like we're not ready. That it's going to be very important that I stress today and then moving forward as our commissioners reach out to the county groups. The one thing we want each of our county coalitions to know is you don't have to have descendants at the table. It will be nice. You don't have to have complete research done. The commission will be doing their best to bring forth our own research and will take into consideration, including the county coalition research. But these things are not going to make or break whether a hearing takes place or not. Like the hearings have to take place as a part of the charge of our commission. And we really want the county coalitions to be a part of that. But if there's not a descendant at the table or there's not a fully fleshed out research plan, please don't feel like you can't take part in this process. There is room for you to participate in this process. So I just want to drive that point home. And let me go on to testimony. So I'm taking this information from our logistics document. Let me just back up for a second and just say that in the history, I want to say that the history overview, which is the second speaker for the day, either a research committee member or other designated presenter, which could be a county coalition member, will provide an overview of the lynching events in the regions/counties where the hearing is taking place. This overview will include specific details of the lynching occurrence, including the victims' names, conditions surrounding the lynching event, and what we know about those institutions complicit in allowing the event to proceed and perpetrators to go unpunished. So now I will look at the testimony, because the testimony is typically the third speaker built into the program. And it will solicit the third speaker, ideally a professional facilitator, will solicit public testimony from the audience regarding what is known about a local lynching occurrence and what the impact of the legacy of lynching has been on the local community. Members of the public will be invited to sign up to speak in advance of the meeting. And I do want to stress that registration is in advance. And I know that people will want to come and participate the day of and may not have registered. Please know that there is an oral and written option for presenting testimony. Once those members of the public have had their say, the facilitator will invite, the facilitator is usually the chair or vice chair or a designated commissioner of the hearing that day, will invite others in the audience who did not sign up to speak to provide testimony if they so desire, but written testimony will also be solicited. That's one of the things that we will be updating, because again, that piece and thinking about like timing and people's emotional feelings for the day, we really want to encourage that all speakers in the day are actually pre-registered, and any thing of the day other than that will be submitted in written testimony. The testimony component will be structured to provide invited participants an allotment of time to present. Priority will be given first to the descendants of victims. Following the structured portion, participants will be invited to present based on a sign-in sheet. The commission should investigate how, the recommendation was how the South Africa Truth and Reconciliation Commission crafted its hearing schedule and program in order to learn how witnesses and survivors were given the opportunity to provide their testimony and what commissioners did or said in response to hearing that testimony. There will need to be ongoing discussion to determine what can be done during the hearings to recognize and validate the trauma the family members or witness has experienced and is sharing within the group. So there's a lot of reflection and debrief that follows these hearings, and that's why we are kind of really trying to make sure that we stick to the structure that we have laid out in the logistics committee, because there is additional work that will need to take place after the hearing, and it needs to be manageable for the group that we have connected to this work. So after the testimony, let me get here. Well, I should say, let me just address public comment. Give me 1 second. So there's 3 things, 3 points related to the public comments: the scope of the comments, time limitation on comments, and registration procedures for public comment. So speakers are permitted to comment on any item relevant to the business of the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Public comment will take place at the beginning of the regular meeting. Comments are to be directed to the commission as a whole. The public comment period is intended to provide an opportunity for the commission to hear from members of the public. Commission members may refer matters that arise to the chair for investigation and/or follow-up. However, the commission will not provide immediate responses to the public comments presented. In terms of time limitations on comments, the maximum speaking time afforded to any individual speaking on any item of business relevant to the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission hearing will be 3 minutes unless otherwise indicated by the chair. The chair will moderate the comment period, and usually when he offers any additional timing, that is specifically for descendants who in many instances are giving a very emotional testimony and may need and want more time to process the words that they're delivering that day. And the third point is registration procedures for public comment. Any person wishing to make comments during the public comment period shall sign a speaker's list prior to the commencement of the meeting. The speaker's list will be available at least 15 minutes before the scheduled start of the meeting, and it will be closed once the meeting begins. Persons who have not signed up prior to the start of the meeting will not be permitted to provide public comment. Speakers shall identify themselves in writing on the speaker's list by providing their name, contact information, organizational affiliation, if any, and the subject matter and/or agenda item to which their comments pertain. Public comments will be made in the order in which individuals have signed up. So that essentially is the way in which the public hearings will take place. And at this time, I know that, people are at very different points in their participation in this, whether they're a commissioner or a member of a coalition or a descendant. So I just wanted to leave it open for any questions that people may have. And I'll stop sharing. Yes, I see Elizabeth has raised her hand.
Yeah, that was really great, Maya. It was great to see that presentation. I think it's really, really helpful to have it in that way. I'm wondering, is this something that we are going to put on the like the archives, the page on the website, or is it more something that will be shared with our partners that we're working with on the hearings, or is it just to be put out there for everyone to see?
Yeah, so I'd be happy to send it to the archives and have them posted, and then we can also reiterate by sharing with our collaborators. Thanks, Elizabeth. Any other questions? And I think that the hearing template guidelines are actually already on the archives website. The only thing that would just need to be added are the slides so that people can actually see what each point is in the, in a presentation format instead of a Word document. But I believe that the guidelines for that are actually already online. Well, if there's no more questions, I will, that officially ends my portion, David.
Thank you so much. Definitely very helpful in coordination, both internally and externally. So let's all take that in and think about how to best implement for sure. Moving into new business, we have an update on the marketing and PR consultant RFP decision, and that a firm was selected. Commissioner Hughes, would you mind sharing, since you were you were the one that I initially got the word from? I didn't know if there was anybody else
Yeah,
that had a plan for how to introduce that agenda point.
I'm not sure, but I can just report out on how that procurement
Thank
went.
you.
We had the support of the Office of the Attorney General in conducting this state procurement because the funding from the Emmett Till grant went to, of course, OAG. So we had to go through the state procurement process. So in early December, the RFP for procuring a PR and marketing firm to help us more broadly spread the word about the work of the commission generally, as well as direct the public to the upcoming hearings and hopefully encourage engagement and participation with those hearings. That scope of work was posted. We had pre-proposal meetings in the middle of December. The selection committee met in early January, and that was Commissioners Baker, Creary, and Snowden and myself, who reviewed the proposals and ranked them. And the top selected candidate, the Hatcher Group, Derek Turner, is here with us, I believe, at this meeting. The contract with that group was signed just about a week ago, I believe. So we're all set to get started, which is perfect timing with the Frederick hearing coming up. So we're really excited. This was such a strong proposal that the whole team was just really excited to have these folks on board. So I don't know if Mr. Turner would like to say a few words, and I don't know if Commissioner Creary, you can say any more about the extent to which there might be a meeting forthcoming with the executive committee with the firm. But that's my piece, and I was very happy to be a part of it. Thanks.
I will.
Good afternoon.
Please, yes, go ahead, Mr. Turner, please.
I just want to say thank you, and we're humbled to be part of this important work. I have had a chance to do some really thoughtful reading about the history of lynching in Maryland, and particularly Montgomery County, from my previous role. And it's just such an important conversation to be had with the public. I think for a long time, people just are unaware that, that there's a perception of Maryland that it is a different place, that it is a place safe from that kind of violence. And I think our community needs to know, and I'm happy to be part of the conversation to inform our community. Thank you.
Yes, and as far as working with the executive team, we will be getting together fairly soon to discuss next steps, and I'll be working as well to try to get that group working on the Frederick hearing together, so we can take next steps, like first and foremost locking down a venue for the hearing. And yeah, we're gonna move this forward. And welcome, Mr. Turner, and to the Hatcher Group.
Wonderful. Thank you all for your contributions to that process, and again, welcoming the Hatcher Group, Mr. Turner, into the fold. It would be wonderful to have that additional support, and as folks have mentioned, make sure that there's both community visibility but also community involvement, and making sure that we move forward in the most effective way. So we'll be really, really excited to organize around those goals. I see next that we have discussion of county regional coalition check-ins. If anybody else has any kind of update to share in that respect, please feel free to interrupt me. But I do know that we now have the kind of what have been the county assignments or kind of tentative assignments. It is outlined on the commission website hosted by the state archives now, and I'd be happy to drop that drop that link in the chat, and echo Commissioner Davis's earlier point that if you do have a county liaison assignment that you are aware of, to confirm who the contacts in that community would be, whether via the Memorial Project Coalition or other individuals that have volunteered to support and collaborate. But also, if you are not aware of, as a commissioner, having a county assignment, it may be there assigned to you, or there's opportunity for conversation about that if there's a more reasonable or convenient connection that you would like to utilize as a commissioner. So I would say that information is available now, and that's probably something that if there's a conversation to be had, that the executive commission could consider it, and just to touch base, both with
And
the
David,
executive
to also,
commission. Yeah.
oh, sorry to cut you off.
Oh, go ahead.
To also add to that point, the reason why David also added this was to also create space for each commissioners assigned to various counties to be able to do a report out of various things that they're working on in their designated counties, just so everyone can be put up to speed. We know that right now in Frederick County, for instance, on April 13th, that's like a date that folks are marking on their calendars for that upcoming hearing. I know that Michelle has been working very diligently in her county as well. So it's really just to allow for folks in each assigned county to be able to do a report out so folks can be on the same page. And also, if there's any resources or things that folks need, being able to make that known to the greater whole of everyone. So I just wanted to clarify what that was added for, and that will be added to the agendas going forward, so we can all be up to date on what everyone is doing, so we can all chime in and help.
Hi guys, I just want to chime in. So I have made contact, and I apologize for the background noise, but I have made contact with St. Mary's County and with two people that were on our contact list spreadsheet, and they are both excited and eager for the hearing. It sounds like, St. Mary's has been heavily invested in creating an environment to tell the truth about the history of lynchings and move towards racial reconciliation for a while. And so they see this hearing as kind of a culmination of their efforts. They already have a marker for the person who was lynched, and then they've just had a lot of community work done around this. So they're very excited. They basically said they're ready to go whenever. They're like, just tell us when we're ready, and we could do this in 2 weeks. We just need to let people know that we're having it. So we threw around some dates, and they thought June might be a good time to do it. And, that dovetails with Juneteenth, if we wanted to have that type of tie-in with the event. So if there are any conflicts with a June weekend date, I think a Saturday in June is what we were looking at, definitely let me know that. On the spreadsheet, we talked about linking St. Mary's and Calvert County. And I also spoke with someone in Calvert County, and they're kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of how prepared they think they are to have a hearing like this, with there being a sentiment from the African American community, and this is based on limited information and dated information. So I still need to do the follow-ups to speak with more people. But one person's impression was that the African American community was more resistant to having a hearing like this because it was sort of opening up old wounds, and the African American community had felt like some, at least surface level, progress had been made in race relationships, and they were concerned that having a hearing like this could actually make things worse and set things back. And so there's that tension there, but I do need to have more follow-up conversations to understand. And so one possibility to consider is, continuing with the planning with St. Mary's and possibly including Calvert County as an invitation open to anyone who wants to participate, but with the understanding that there may be less participation and engagement from Calvert County. And another possibility could be delaying them both until Calvert County is ready, or so there's different possibilities that we could think through. But that's, if we wanted to move forward with St. Mary's, I think that would probably be our only option, because we may not have the partners on the ground in Calvert County that we would need to have them be equal partners at the table for a hearing in the near term.
Michelle, just from what you shared, do you think that if St. Mary's was to host a hearing, that could probably help to inspire or even empower Calvert County? Or do you just think that it will be such a disconnect, or just such like an opening of wounds that probably would not be helpful? Or even if like one or two community members from that county attended St. Mary's, that could be helpful? I'm just curious.
I would like to have more conversations to know for sure where they are in Calvert County. So far, I've only spoken to one person, and he acknowledged that his information was somewhat dated. And so we need to have more follow-up conversations to know that for sure. But St. Mary's already has two venues, or two possible venues identified, with one being a local Catholic high school, and another being the Black historically African American church, where the lynching victim is buried. And so they're definitely ready to go. And so maybe that would take some of the pressure off the Calvert County people if the hearing wasn't actually taking place in Calvert County, and they could feel more free to participate and join the hearing in a different location without feeling like the spotlight was on them as much.
Gotcha. Well, with that update, it probably will be best to move forward with the St. Mary's, seeing that they are ready to go. They sound like they're very eager. It sounds like, if they already have venues fired up and ready to go, why put the fire out and prolong them from being able to do something? So I would say, full speed ahead. And Nick, I seen you raise your hand if you want to come off mute too.
Oh no, I hit the wrong button. I was just trying to get to the one where I could hit the thumbs up to say that was great. Yes, we should move forward with St. Mary's if they're ready to go.
Does anyone foresee a problem with a June weekend date? Given our current hearing schedule, is Frederick the only other hearing that we discussed the date for at this point?
I'm sorry, Michelle, did you say a specific date in June, or are you asking like just in general in June?
Just in general. We didn't pick a specific date. We were just kind of talking about a time frame, and then I still need to have some more follow-up meetings with different people in that community as well. But just in general, are there any conflicts in June we should be aware of?
There's three things I think for consideration is Juneteenth is always, like, as many of us are like connected to different organizations who have Juneteenth as a part of our work program. That's one thing for consideration. Father's Day, not so much of a non-issue, because if we did it on a Saturday, Father's Day would be the Sunday, but another thing to consider. And just from my personal work, I do have like a big program the first weekend of June, but I don't want to use that as something to uphold us from having a hearing that date. I just would want everyone to know that I probably would not be there the first weekend of June. But that's not to say that we couldn't have it in June.
Okay, that sounds good. So maybe the last weekend of June, based on those, could still be open as a possibility, maybe. Or okay, we'll see, work around those.
And we can make sure to circulate that to amongst the executive committee to, certainly the speaking roles that we would expect to have from commission leadership and staff. So, yeah, thank you so much for that update. And so any other county liaison updates? I actually believe, Nick, based on your outreach, I believe we have determined that the two former members of the Carroll County Coalition that we had been in conversation with are no longer serving or volunteering in those roles. So it seems like we might be, I don't want to say back to square one, but we'll probably be reorganizing our efforts with Carroll County due to turnover slash, folks moving on from that volunteer work. But I should note that Carroll County, like St. Mary's County and many others, have done a lot of the work preceding commission work, including EJI sponsored soil collection events with descendant testimony. So there are things that we can look toward, YouTube recordings, for example, to help us find additional contacts or think about how to conduct events in those communities without some of those same folks involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, given those circumstances, I'm thinking it might be worthwhile, exploring the possibility of trying to do as we had, as you said, going back to square one, combining Frederick and Carroll, since, there is only the one case in Carroll County with Townsend Cook, and possibly trying to put those together. Now that would mean a little more scrambling in terms of trying to find potential descendants, but I think, the research is certainly there. And again, we do have, some of that prior work that they've been doing to build on. So that might be something to consider as well.
I just want to add that I know that when I spoke with Lindsay Baker a week or so ago, that she's been also connecting with folks in Prince George County, mainly trying to figure out the general hosting meetings for their coalitions. And she did send me over some Zoom links for next month when they'll be hosting some meetings. So I'll be hopping on those meetings just to see what folks are talking about on the days that Lindsay may not be able to join. She did share that with her family work-life balance, that it'd probably be helpful for me to join some of those. So I'll be joining and giving some updates as I can.
Thank you. And I'm just going to note here as well that I'm going to be transitioning off of the call here in a minute for a 1 o'clock obligation. So if there's still more to work through, if I could just ask that someone kind of pick up where the agenda leaves off, although we are almost through the things that are listed there. If somebody would speak to the review and feedback of hearing session thematic index draft, unless Nick, is that what you already referenced earlier?
Yeah, that was
the
what I
document
referred to earlier. Yeah,
okay.
with Dr. Gowerk, if she is.
Do we have her with us?
Hi. And
Commissioner Creary really explained it beautifully, but I'll just be working with the two students, Janiyah Harris and Jana Sansonetti at Loyola. They're just editing the transcripts, which were pretty much in good shape. They're just doing some Google searching to make sure the spelling of counties and names are correct. And then after they go through that, we will look at the five hearings that already did happen and code. And there is a draft code book. I don't know if everyone has seen it, but we can definitely share it. It's very much just an initial draft. And it was largely drawn from a preliminary coding of the Baltimore hearing. But what this will enable is that close analysis of the hearing and then really just organizing the data. I think more than anything, that's what we can do and offer for the commission, which will just be organizing the data in terms of recommendations having to do with news media, and then kind of specify some of what comes up underneath with quotations that match it. So that's kind of what I'm imagining, some of those final reports that we can pass on to the Reconciliation Committee, to Commissioner Creary and everyone, that will hopefully be helpful when it comes to the final report that you're writing. I think our job will be to stay very close to the data, so we won't do any sort of interpretation. We will just, highlight the themes that are coming up and the quotations that specify that. And then from there, the hope is that it's going to make it much easier to draft that, or not much, but easier to draft the final report and the recommendations. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has, or any thoughts, but it definitely will be a work in progress. But I think what I'll do is, after we start this process, I'll continue to just take the reports that we have, share it with the Reconciliation Committee to get feedback, if there's anything we should adjust. So it'll be one of those kind of processes.
Michelle, just to let you and Nick know, it is available online on the actual homepage of MLTRC.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Commissioner Haley.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Haley.
And just thank you all for letting me engage in this small way. The work that you all do is so incredibly important. And so I'm thrilled that we can contribute in a small way to it. So.
Well, if I can just say thank you and your students for the work you're doing. This is not small work at all. And as he said, it will hopefully facilitate our ability to get that final report done.
Hey, Nick, the only thing I see left is, well, just discussion MLTRC involvement in the state of Maryland's Heritage 2031 preservation plan.
Yeah, so I think I know there's been a little bit of email comment on that, so I don't know if people who are present want to chime in or share that. I don't know, Chris, could you maybe give us a little bit of background on what this is and why we're being asked to participate and how we want to make sure that the commission is included in this?
Well, Frank, when I read it, Nick, the truth of the matter is I'm not sure why, because it does say 2031, and of course our sunset is 2026.
Yes.
So I'm not really sure. Now, fortunately, Commissioner Hughes has just raised her hand, so maybe she has insight into that, because when I saw it, that's literally what I thought.
Yeah.
So
this document is the State Historic Preservation Plan that every State Historic Preservation Office is required to prepare on a 5 or so year cycle. Ours is going to be on an 8-year cycle now, and it's updated for the National Park Service. And it's not to reflect just the work of the SHPO, the Maryland Historical Trust, but all preservation partners or public history partners. And so in the public meetings that we held around the state to hear from folks at the grassroots level about what was important to them, this issue of the work of the commission came up. And so it's included as a way to lift up the work of the commission as a part of this overall plan that addresses how we're telling the story of underrepresented and marginalized communities and stories through the work of historic preservation and public history partners. So there's nothing that the commission is being tasked with doing in this plan. It's more simply acknowledging the work of the commission and making sure that others are aware of it and looking at it as a support for the sort of statewide effort and objective of the plan to tell stories of communities that have not been acknowledged appropriately in the past. So.
Yeah.
So with that, Elizabeth, do you think that means, or that represents that we should perhaps include our final report in it, or should we draft a report or something that should be included in it? What do you think that we would?
The plan really just includes like goals and objectives and strategies and actions. So I don't think there's anything proactively that you need to be doing. I honestly wasn't really tracking on this being in the plan. I have the final version of it. I'll look at it and I'll loop back around with you. But I think it's more a matter of simply trying to recognize the work of the commission as important work when it comes to interpretation of the state's history.
Okay.
And if I could just follow up, I think Dr. Gowerk's comment that this is a way to make sure that they realize, yes, the commission's, this is just the beginning of a process, and that after we sunset, there's going to have to be some sort of institutionalized, mechanism to implement the recommendations that we're going to bring forth to the General Assembly and to the governor.
Okay, then I'll just say that the obvious, that when we get more clarity, then one of us has to be like, okay, and I'm going to do that, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to do that. So just when we get closer to it. Okay. We're just on announcements now. That's where we are now.
Okay.
If I may interject with an announcement, this is Kristen from OAG. As many of you know, the legislation for the commission provides for staffing from Bowie State University, and our staff member was Joy Samarican. She is no longer working at Bowie State, and the university is looking for someone to replace her. And so they've invited us to share any recommendations that the commission may have. So if you have a recommendation for someone to provide staffing to the commission, I believe it's part-time, but in any event, just let me know. And I will refer them to Bowie State University to submit an application. And right now, I think what Chair Fakunle had said is he would envision this person working closely with Trish Boyle and possibly like under the direction of Trish Boyle as the project manager. Thank you.
Okay, Kristen, I just want to interject just briefly, and I think this is probably separate from what you're saying, because you probably received it too. I did receive, I think many of us received an email today from Joy via an Aruska. Which I just opened it and then I lost it. But who was asking for who the contact commissioners were for Arusha Evans, Executive Administrator Assistant 2 for Bowie State University, who was asking for the minutes, and I think has submitted the minutes, all the attached minutes for the year 2023. She doesn't specifically say she's taking over for Joy, but she did send that to Joy, to someone named Karen Johnson Shahid and me today. So just that's your
yeah,
day.
I will just say, Karen Johnson Shahid is the university counsel for State.
Yeah, so Karen, I'm not sure how this happened, but at some point Joy came to be under the supervision of Karen, the general counsel. So I didn't see that email. Chris, if you don't mind sending it to me, I'll try and sort through it. It may just be that Joy is submitting minutes from the last meeting she was able to participate in. But if you send it to me, I'll figure it out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's all we have, Nick.
Okay, then I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Well, thank you all for coming, taking the time. This was a wonderfully rich meeting, and I'm excited by the many things we have moving forward. So thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week. And I look forward to seeing you at committee meetings and at next month's general meeting. So take care.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone.